All right. We're back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. As usual, I'm your host, Mark Pierce. How you doing today? Well, I'm excited about today. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. We're skipping the music news yet again because there's a fairly decent story in length, and we're going to try to keep these as short as possible. But let's see what we can do. What do we got going for our band today? Well, we got a little hint here. This is not the Byrds we're talking about. It's not your average church music like parish music. Let's see, what else could we say here? It's not some piercing metal band. I got lots more, but we'll try to keep it short there on that one. Of course, we're talking Boston, the band Boston. And what else would we be talking about but their monumental debut album, the self-titled Boston album, released on this day, August 25th, 44 years ago, 1976, smack in the middle of pre-disco. Do you guys all know this story? If you're my age, I think you know the story of this record. And maybe you know it ad nauseum, because I remember hearing about this when I was young, and I remember hearing the whole story. So if you know it, you can relive it. If you don't know the story of Boston's first record, it's actually quite interesting, so you might want to give a listen. So let's talk about it. So this record produced by Tom Scholz. Who's Tom Scholz? Well, he's the founder of the band. He's the main songwriter, the main guy in the band. And the other producer is John Boylan, but we'll talk about him in a little bit. So, Tom Scholz. He is a student at MIT. Classically trained pianist, but he's at MIT, graduates with his master's degree, and goes to work for Polaroid. Okay? So, he works for Polaroid. He's in the Boston area, in Watertown, and his hobby is home recording equipment and studio stuff. So he takes his money from Polaroid that he earns, and he puts his money in that, and that's his hobby. He plays keyboards for bands at night in various bars in Boston, right? So he picks up a guitar when he's in his early 20s, and he's fooling around in his basement with stuff, and he's a keyboardist at night, and he eventually meets two guys. He meets Jim Mastia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and Barry Goudreau, right? And they get to talking, and they both agree, they all agree, that what they want is to form the perfect band with the perfect vocals, crystal clear vocals, and epic loud guitars. They want to do that, right? So they want to form the perfect rock band. They audition dozens of singers until Brad Delp comes in their lap, because one of them knows them. And Brad Delp is a guy who's been singing in cover bands, and he works like in a factory during the day. He sings Rocky Mountain, what's he sing, Rocky Mountain Way? Anyway, he gets the job. They call themselves Mother's Milk, and they basically tour and play bars in Boston for several years, and they make a demo tape. The demo tape is done in 1973, and what's on that demo tape? What's on the demo tape is basically More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Rock and Roll Band, Hitch a Ride. I think that's, and there's like a couple others on there. But basically, those songs are already on their demo, and they're trying to sell it to a record label, and Schultz's wife, and they're just giving it to all the labels that they can, and everybody says nope, everybody passes, says not interested, we're in the land of disco, we are not interested in big guitar rock. So they're basically done by 74, 75. They got a demo, they're playing around, they're sick of playing in clubs, and they just kind of fizzle out, and Schultz goes back to his basement and just hangs out in his basement perfecting his music, all the instruments, recording everything, perfection, right? So then he's just doing that, and he's still working his day job, and he says, well, if you guys aren't doing anything anyway, if we're not going to play, you might as well at least come and do some stuff in the basement, right? So he drags a couple of them back into the basement. Brad Delp goes back there, and they basically go down there. The drummer goes back there, and they start working and perfecting these songs with some new songs as well. So this tape is around, and someone forgot to mail it to someone that they knew, and then he finally mailed it, and then someone heard the tape playing in an office, something like that, and he called his friend that he owed a favor to in LA, and then basically Epic gets the demo tape and signs them. And Epic is one of the ones who passed on them. They want them to audition, and at that point there's not even much of a band. Like some of the guys quit, they weren't touring, they weren't playing, so we kind of had to throw together a band. Tom Schultz did, in Boston. The reps come, they end up playing in Aerosmith's practice, like, storage area, whatever you want to call it, warehouse. And he ends up grabbing a bass player and a drummer and Brad Delp, and they do an audition and they get signed. And the record label says, we want the record to sound just like your demo, but we want you to record it in LA on all our fancy new equipment. And we're going to give you a producer, and that is John Boylan. And John Boylan says, one of the first things he says is, you can't call yourselves Mother's Milk. I want you guys to call yourselves Boston. Okay, we can do that. Okay, now we want you to come to California and start recording. And Schultz is like, nope, not going to do it. Nope, I've been recording in my basement by myself for years. That's how I do things. I got my $100 guitar. I perfected everything. As a matter of fact, I like my demo tape. I just want you guys to release the demo tape. But you guys want me to re-record it? I'll re-record it on my own stuff over again, but I'm not coming to California. So they got a big problem on their hand. And then what transpires is what has been called one of the most complex capers in the history of rock and roll. The whole band flies to California. The label thinks they're all there when really Schultz is back in his basement recording area, and he's doing all the work while the band's over there in California recording basically just the vocals. So the label thinks they're all in California, and they're not. Schultz takes a leave of absence from his job and spends a few months in his basement re-recording every note of every instrument of every song, basically of his demo. And he's like, it's so stupid. I'm re-recording my demo exactly, just so they think it's been recorded out there on their fancy stuff. And I don't want to go there because they're going to think I'm some hick who's been in my basement for years recording stuff. Well, because I am. So that's what we're going to do. So that's basically what they do. He rents a truck from Providence, Rhode Island, gets it to his house with this huge 24-track recording board that they need, and he runs a wire into his basement and cuts the record. And basically that's the record that comes out. So that's pretty amazing, right? So the record comes out August 25th. It ends up selling like 200,000 copies in the first couple of weeks because Cleveland starts blowing it open, and everyone starts taking it off from there. 200,000 copies. Then it was like, let's see, it was 6 million in the first year, 500,000 like in the first 6 months or something like that, or whatever it was. 6 million the first year, 9 million by 1986, over 20 million by now, 20 million in counting. They are the second most sold debut album in rock history behind Appetite for Destruction. So before Appetite, they were number one. They were number one in all kinds of categories. They got nominated for a Grammy. This was just a really, really big deal. Now the problem is, this record is so perfect that it's labeled corporate rock, which is exactly what he was trying to avoid by recording it in his basement. But because it came out so perfect, almost like a computer, they called it corporate rock. And so it was easy to deride it because it said it didn't have any soul or no, it was just so perfect, it's just right. So it was easy to be detractors, but you loved the songs. That's the problem, is you fell in love with the songs. So I listened to this song. I'm at almost 10 minutes, I'm sorry. I mean, I grew up with this record. This was a record, I played it over and over again. You had to play it on headphones. You had to listen to all those noises. Everything was great. You got chills. It was just so good. So what are the tracks on the record? More Than a Feeling. Peace of Mind, Foreplay, Long Time, Rock and Roll Band, Smokin', Hitch a Ride, Something About You, Let Me Take You Home Tonight. I mean, this is Boston's greatest hits, right? I mean, you could pick any of these for Song of the Day. I have two for Song of the Day. I don't usually do that very often, but I mean, More Than a Feeling has to be the Song of the Day because this is the quote I read. It's awfully hard to make any kind of sensible argument against this song. As an album opener, a first single, an AOR anthem, it's something close to perfect. So that's got to be the Song of the Day, is More Than a Feeling, and I don't disagree with that statement at all. So More Than a Feeling is your Song of the Day, but I'm going to tell you, the song that always got me, that I always listen to over and over again with those headphones, and to this day, if I hear it, I get so excited when I hear it. It's Foreplay, Long Time. An 8-minute opus that's just so good. You're listening to it, it's kind of moving along, then you get the 2-minute, 20-second in, and it gets all quiet, and it sounds like they're in the middle of a jungle, and you're like, what? And then all of a sudden you hear do, 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 and the guitars and the drums and the vocals kick in, and oh man, it's so good, right? So good. I'm going to play both those. We're at 11 minutes, sorry. Song of the Day, More Than a Feeling, Boston, but that Foreplay, Long Time, that's like neck tie. Going to play them both. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your memories are. Columbia House Records just kept mailing me that copy when I wore it out. Have a good one, and as usual, we'll see you on the flip side.